It's not often that I get turned around on something, but it happened yesterday, and it was about Brock Purdy's contract. I'll explain what I mean. Plus, we'll do best bets for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. But before all that, I just heard something from a 49ers beat writer that provided a huge clue as to what the team will do at defensive coordinator. We'll talk about it all on today's Gold Diggers podcast, brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Gold Diggers podcast on the Gold Standard and the Fans First Sports Network. It is Friday. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. She's Michelle Majuk. Michelle, how are you on this fine football Friday?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to just watch football without any stress. My team's not in it. I mean, because you guys know I'm a Steelers fan at heart, right? And then also 49ers fan that you guys have converted me to. But I'm just excited. I don't have to watch the Steelers get their butts kicked this week, honestly. And I just get to enjoy football without stress.
After the pain of not making the playoffs has subsided, now we're into the part where it's just like, hey, really good football. This is my favorite weekend. Divisional round. Like everyone's like, oh, wild card. Forget wild card. All the crap teams are gone. You got nothing but good teams now. I love divisional weekend. We'll get into that. I've got a ton of best bets for you. We're going to get into something that turned me around on Brock Purdy's contract with the 49ers whenever it may come. But first, we got to talk about what I just found out about. I just heard a comment from Matt Barrows talking about the 49ers defensive coordinator situation, and it provided the biggest clue yet as to what is happening and why. You like it. I'm a little less sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it for you and let you decide. This is courtesy of the 49ers Plus Minus podcast with Tim Kawakami. He was joined by Matt Barrows. Listen to Matt Barrows talking about the defensive coordinator search.
I think it's become obvious now that it's Saleh. Saleh or bust, really, because they haven't done much work with anybody else to this point. And I've heard that, they've already told Saleh, we will make you the highest paid defensive coordinator in all the land if you sign with us. And so now it's just a matter of waiting for Saleh, and he's getting all sorts of head coaching attention. I know that he's got a strong relationship with Kyle Shanahan. And like I said, I know that the 49ers have made a strong offer. It's supposed to be, top of the market. Will it be at the end of this cycle? I don't know. But the point was that it was supposed to be a strong offer to signal to him that we really want you back here.
Your first reaction when you hear that?
Listen, it's not my money and it's not coming out of the cap, right? So I'm not worried about what they have to pay him. Like, that's on the billionaire owner to have to deal with. Like, I don't feel bad for you, right? So yeah, pay him whatever you need to get him. I personally want Robert Saleh to be the DC, and I understand that it's worrisome that he is interviewing for other teams. And if he does get hired, they are in a really bad spot, and they probably should not have put themselves in this spot where, it's plan A or they're screwed, right? But if they do land Saleh, I like going this route.
Yeah, there's certainly a scenario where Saleh gets the job and he's awesome and the 49ers defense is much better. There's definitely a strong football case to hire Robert Saleh as a defensive coordinator, not just for the 49ers, for any team. He's a good defensive coordinator. What bugs me is the process, Michelle. I hate the process. And you can still end up with a good result with bad process. It's harder to do, but it's possible. I just don't know why they're walking this tightrope. Why are you putting yourselves in a situation where if Saleh either gets a head coaching job or he may have other defensive coordinator offers? Barrows said at another point in that conversation that it's possible the Cowboys want Kellen Moore to be their coach and hire Saleh as the defensive coordinator position. He's going to have options. That's the point. Why aren't the 49ers giving themselves options? How can you only have interviewed one other defensive coordinator candidate? How have you not talked to more people? How do you not have a plan ready to go in case Robert Saleh doesn't come back? The last thing you want to do is be scrambling, because we saw what that looked like. And it was Nick Sorensen at defensive coordinator last year.
And you mentioned like reasons why people might want to still interview for OC, right? Is to just like get their name out there, get in front of these management, whether it be Lynch or Shanahan or whatever, right? It's just good to talk to people and kind of have a pile here for when you need a new offensive coordinator. let's say they do hire Saleh. I mean, his goal is clearly to become a head coach again. So if he does the job you want him to do, which would mean he has a top defense, an elite defense, he's going to get hired again as a head coach very, very fast. And I'm fine with that, honestly. Like if he has a top 3 year, it's going to be worth it for that year, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you need to have a pipeline of candidates. This would be the perfect time to be interviewing, getting those pipeline of candidates, at least being like, I remember this guy, I really liked him. Maybe he wasn't ready yet. He got another year though in the NFL of experience, whatever he was doing, or in college, right? Why would you not be building this pipeline up? Because even if you do hire someone, it's likely not going to be for a long time unless he's not a good DC, which then you also then have a problem.
Right. You'll need another defensive coordinator anyway. Exactly. I could not have said it better myself. This is crazy. And they just botched a defensive coordinator hiring last year. Like you would think that they would have learned. And that's the thing that scares me, is that none of this shows any growth by the 49ers. It's just nothing we did was wrong. We just didn't execute it properly. And we need to get back to somebody that can execute it. Our system is fine. Everything is fine. Our defense is fine. No, show some growth. At least show that you're open to hearing other ideas. That's the scariest part about this. Keeping the Faith says the Niners' actions tell you everything you need to know. They must feel they're going to land Robert Saleh. I would agree with that, because if you had any doubt, you would protect yourself, and they don't seem to be protecting them unless they really love Deshae Townsend, who they interviewed from the Lions, and I guess that is possible. And maybe they think, hey, if we don't get Saleh, we'll go with Deshae Townsend. That's certainly possible too. They did have him in for an interview, so we'll wait and see. I just was really surprised when I heard that. And I love, by the way, what you mentioned too. Pay Robert Saleh whatever he wants. Pay whatever person you hire whatever they want. If I were an owner, that's your advantage. Coaching salaries do not count against the salary cap, and coaching is massively important in the NFL, more than in any other sport, in my opinion. If I was an owner, that would be my edge. I would pay all my coaches a ton of money when I found good coaches. I would want to make it so difficult for them to leave that my team would get the benefit of that.
I don't get why they don't do that. I mean, maybe if it was my money, I'd feel different. But when you have that much money, I can't even imagine it really impacting you all that much. But like the whole thing when you find like a Ben Johnson OC and you have a really good head coach too, right? And Dan Campbell, like you're not going to fire Dan Campbell for Ben Johnson. Dan Campbell's been great, but pay Ben Johnson like Dan Campbell. Be like, we will give you head coaching money to still be an OC. You don't have the pressure on you. You get to stay with a great team. You get to win championships. And maybe he'd still want to leave, but you do everything you can to keep those guys. And it doesn't seem like they do that. They kind of just let them leave. We can't be the only ones thinking this. So there must be a reason why they don't do it. But it is wild to me that they don't just pay up.
I know the reason. Do you want to know the reason?
Because they're cheap.
Yes, that's the reason. Cheapness, which is insane because the best head coaches make between $15 and $20 million a year, generally. I mean, coaching salaries aren't totally released, but that's the thought, right? Do you know how much little money that is to a billionaire owner? The difference between $1 million and $1 billion is so big. I don't think people understand it.
It's basically $1 billion.
The analogy that I love to give is that 1 million seconds is 11 and a half days. 1 billion seconds is 31 years. That's the difference between 1 million and 1 billion. So when you have the money that these owners have, ponying up another couple $1 million for a coordinator or whatever, it's nothing to them. It's money in the couch cushions. It really is. So I'm stunned that they don't do it, but they are cheap as hell, quite frankly. The Unfaithful Perspective says, we're entering a new era in the NFC, one where other contenders are built better than the 49ers, and the 49ers have an inability to change. I really believe that. NFC could be a lot tougher for the Niners. Philadelphia certainly doesn't look like they're going anywhere. Washington has a great team with a great quarterback. They could be on the rise as well. I don't know who knows what's going to happen with Minnesota because their quarterback situation is in flux. The Lions could be good. Now, if Ben Johnson leaves, we don't know. The Rams look like they're on the up and up. They're coming on strong. Like, the NFC is not going to be a walk in the park. So the 49ers better get their stuff together.
Yeah. I mean, even their own division, like if Seattle could just find a quarterback,
Yeah.
I know like Geno Smith isn't terrible. And it might be the reason why they go 500 in years with Geno Smith. But like if they found a great quarterback, they're going to be the top of this division for a while, right? And the Rams, I guess you have to, it just depends on when Stafford's gone and who their next quarterback is. Chicago, if anyone can figure out Caleb Williams and like fix him, right, and make him the quarterback he's supposed to be, he could be dangerous. There's a lot of good teams in the NFC coming up, and this was kind of their year to steal, a Super Bowl in a weaker conference where you only were competing with basically Detroit and Philadelphia, I guess, as those top big dogs. That's supposed to be where 49ers were this year, and they wasted that year.
You're not wrong. Brisbee Life on Twitch says it's okay. Jake Brendel will save us. That's just the meanest.
Did you just hear what you just said?
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Don't worry. It wasn't an accident.
It doesn't bother me when you say it, but why do you say it when it bothers you so much?
Because I've gotten the habit of saying it with Levin because I never want to say you were right. So I just say you were not wrong.
Gotcha.
The NFC is going to get tougher. The Niners do need to be better, and that starts with from coaches to players, top down, from the whole organization. And look, like I said, if they get Robert Saleh and he comes in and he's great, that's great. To me, what it says about the bigger picture, I don't like what it says about the 49ers process and about their thinking. And we'll see ultimately if it works out. Robert Saleh's got an interview. I think he's interviewing today with the Raiders and tomorrow with the Cowboys. Who knows what the hell the Cowboys are doing? I don't even think the Cowboys know. So they're a complete wild card in this whole thing. If you were Robert Saleh, though, let's say you have Niners defensive coordinator, Cowboys defensive coordinator. I mean, where are you going to go? Because I think you could make the argument Cowboys defensive coordinators maybe a better job.
It just depends on how he felt when he was with the 49ers last time. Did he enjoy working with this group? Did he enjoy working with Shanahan? Did he feel respected in this organization? I think that's what it comes down to, because if he enjoyed working here, then I don't think he's too worried about the personnel, right? You want to have a good work environment. You don't know what the Cowboys are like. You don't know how insufferable Jerry Jones might be to all of his coaches. Who knows? If he enjoyed his time here last time, then he should want to come back to San Francisco. But if he didn't, I mean, we don't know how he felt with his experience, and maybe he does decide to go somewhere else.
That's true. We know that he and Kyle sometimes would fight and shout at each other, which I think is not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but it wasn't always, sunshine and rainbows. And we don't know how Rob, maybe he likes that. Maybe he doesn't. Like you said, it all comes down to his personal preference, but that seems to be the latest. Oh, one other thing Matt Barrow said before we move on to the Brock Purdy quarterback stuff. He said that Nick Sorensen's the front runner for special teams coordinator. Like, why?
Why? What experience does he have with that? Does he?
He was the Jags special teams coordinator for a year when Brian Schneider, who the guy they just fired, resigned before the season. So he's never been anybody's first choice to be special teams coordinator. He only got the job with the Jags because Brian Schneider resigned before the year started. I don't know why they think Nick Sorensen is such a great coach. I didn't see anything last year that made me think that he was. Not a single thing. Look, they know him better than I do, but I've seen the 49ers screw up coaching searches before. The 49ers seem very loyal to people. They never fired Richard Hightower, the special teams coordinator before Brian Schneider, and he sucked. They let his contract expire, but they didn't fire him. They're very loyal to people, except Steve Wilkes, and I think it's going to hurt him. I really do.
So they're don't you think if he had special teams knowledge that he could have helped them this year? Like, you think he was just like, no, I'm DC. Nope, not helping this team. Like, if he had ideas to make special teams better, don't you think he could have helped out this year and made it better? Or is he just not allowed? He's just not allowed because he's DC and not special teams?
And if he didn't, then what the hell? I don't get it. I really don't. There are so many coaches, and they've interviewed the coaches. To their credit, I like the process that they've gone through with the special teams coordinator. They talk to other special teams people around the league who have done a good job this past year and brought them in. That's great. What are you going to steal all their ideas and then give them to Nick Sorensen? Is that the plan?
Like, steal these Lions coaches. Like, even if it's just their special teams, assistant coach, steal them, right? Like, I love stealing coaches from winning organizations. Like, bring that winning culture over to this team. And that's why I don't love, taking assistants from losing cultures, because that's what they've been growing up in, right? Throughout their career is this losing culture. That's not what you want. So I just think you should be just taken these good assistant coaches. We don't know if they're good, but at least they have the potential to be good, and seeing what you can get out of them instead of just going with a guy who was already on your team and didn't help anything.
And by the way, that's what the rest of the NFL did with the 49ers. As soon as the 49ers started winning, they picked apart the coaching staff and the front office too. It was a massive brain drain from the 49ers organization. That's what happens. Weaken your enemies, right? They tried to do it by trying to get Steve Spagnuolo from the Chiefs. That was the right thought process. Good. Steal them, hurt them, help yourself. It's a double whammy. And we'll see ultimately. And if I were Nick Sorensen, by the way, I wouldn't want to stay on the staff. They screwed Nick Sorensen. They made him defensive coordinator. He had no business being DC. He never should have gotten that job, but they screwed up the whole process. They fired Steve Wilkes when they shouldn't. They couldn't get anybody better. And so they stuck him in there, and he kind of got scapegoated a little bit. He wasn't ready to be a defensive coordinator. And Kyle Shanahan said as much in the end of season press conference. So why would you want to go back and stay in that environment, in that staff?
Have you heard anything about Brandon Staley? Because that's all I'm waiting to hear.
I know that he's in the running. I don't think that they've formally interviewed him. If they did, maybe they didn't need to because he's been there all year. Who knows? But Kyle did say he was going to give him a shot. He was going to talk to him.
That's my biggest worry is if they don't get Robert Saleh, that's their backup plan.
It could be. I said from the beginning that I wanted them, or that they wanted to hire Brandon Staley as DC last year, but they didn't want to get crap for it. So that's always been my position. Clearly, Kyle likes him, and we'll see. We will see as the 49ers coordinator search takes many, many twists and turns. By the way, did you notice nobody else offered to interview Nick Sorensen for any other job whatsoever? No one else in the league, right? He lost his job as defensive coordinator. Now, technically, he's under contract with the 49ers still, but I'm sure teams could reach out and interview him. There's been not even a whiff that anybody wants him for anything else.
Yeah, there's been I don't know if they would publicly announce it, but there's been no announcements of anyone requesting to interview him or anything. So
not even of him being mentioned as, hey, if the 49ers let him out of his contract, he might be a guy that other teams have. Nobody. No. Nothing. Not saying. Just say. Actually, you know what? I am saying. He stinks as a coach. Get him out. Anyway, all right, let's get to the quarterback stuff, Michelle, because I have a feeling you think potentially that I am a stubborn guy, right? Stuck in my ways, pretty stubborn, think I know everything, all that stuff.
I don't know if I'd go that far. I think you're stubborn, and I think that you have too high of expectations of your quarterback if we're just talking about Brock Purdy. But I wouldn't characterize you as all those things that you just said.
I think you would. You wouldn't off the air. On the air, I think you'd have no problem saying it. But nonetheless.
No, you're my bestie. We met finally, guys, everybody, the world.
And it was fantastic. And yeah. I'm sad that we're not still in the same state, quite frankly. But I talked with RJ Ochoa, my friend, yesterday, who covers the Cowboys for Blogging the Boys, SB Nation's Cowboys community, because I wanted to talk to him like, hey, do the Cowboys really want Robert Saleh? What's going on there? But then he and I got into a discussion about quarterbacks because he knows what it's like to pay your quarterback $60 million a year with the Cowboys and Dak Prescott. And we had a long conversation. I'm not going to play the clip because it's a very long clip. But basically, his point was this. The Niners should definitely pay Brock. They should do it right away because even if he stinks and it doesn't work out, it doesn't cripple you for years. You can get out of it. The Rams got out of it with Jared Goff, and they got Matt Stafford and won a Super Bowl. The Eagles got out of Carson Wentz deal. They found a buyer for Carson freaking Wentz. And even if you can't find a buyer like the Denver Broncos, who had to just cut Russell Wilson, they still made the playoffs this year, even though they took on the biggest dead cap hit in NFL history. And I got to say, that makes me feel a little better about the contract that they're about to give Brock Purdy.
The key, though, to all of that was that the team still found a different quarterback in a cheaper way, or, the Stafford way, I guess, didn't end up being cheaper, but the Eagles had insurance. They took Jalen Hurts and he ended up working out, right? The Broncos hit on Bo Nix this season and it was a loaded quarterback class. They took the last one available in the first round. So all these that you named, they were still able to find a quarterback. And I also think that drafting is key when you pay a quarterback. And the 49ers history as of late, they haven't been the best drafters. So they're going to have to get better than that. But I also think like people are being a little bit dramatic about how much a quarterback hurts salaries. I mean, the cap space is so high lately, right? Like when Jimmy Garoppolo got paid back in 2018, he got $27.5 million a year. The cap space at that time was $177 million in 2018. Now it could be 286 this year. If it jumps up as much as it did from last year from 2023 to 2024, it's expected to be at 286 this year if it has the same jump. That means if Purdy makes $55 million a year, it'll be 19% of the cap, like on average, just for this year. And then it'll be even less next year and the year after that. But Jimmy G was at 16% his first year. So it's a 3% difference. It's really not that different.
Right. That's a good point. The amount of space it takes up is relatively the same. Plus, the Niners have something like $50 million of cap space to roll over into next year, which I think is number one in the NFL. So the numbers are not, they have done a good job, I would say, of preparing for this. The Unfaithful Perspective, thank you for the super chat, says, got to defend Rob here. His standards are too high for quarterbacks. Doesn't the large contract imply high standards? It's on Brock Purdy if he can't meet them.
I think Brock can have a really good game and you'll pick out the one or two things he did wrong when all quarterbacks have bad throws in every single game, even Lamar Jackson, even Joe Burrow, even Patrick Mahomes, even Josh Allen. All the best guys have really bad plays and they, sometimes you can get lucky and they don't catch them or, sometimes it just is a bad overthrow. Like Josh Allen in that last game had a massively terrible overthrow. That's not something he normally does, right? But that's something that you would have gone onto the pod and discussed in the after show, even if Purdy had a great game throughout the whole thing. So that's just what I'm saying. You expect your quarterback to have a perfect game the entire game and make no mistakes, while even the elite quarterbacks make mistakes every single week.
See, I would disagree. What I would say is those mistakes are fine if you're also producing the opposite thing that Josh Allen and Lamar and Mahomes produce, which is those jaw-dropping, game-breaking plays outside of the structure of the offense. If people could see our text messages during games, it's like Michelle and I don't know each other at all, and we're just fighting with the text messages. You always say this. Well, you always say that. It gets heated during games.
We cannot watch a 49ers game together in the same room.
I don't think so. I honestly, especially if it was one of those like Brock games where he was like kind of up and down, like we would be definitely going at it. Frisbee Life on Twitch says, Michelle, did Rob have the word Andy written on the bottom of his shoe when you met him? Just curious, because Levin always likes to call me Woody.
He was wearing the plaid shirt and all. Yeah, came with the cowboy hat, plaid shirt, the boots. You were looking like a Texas boy when you were here.
Well, look, I was trying to blend in, right? When in Rome, do as the Romans do, as they say. No, that is a funny comment, though. Twitch commenters they always bring it. I do always appreciate that. But I have to say, like, after I had that conversation with RJ, I didn't think like, all right, worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. Teams have been able to get out of these contracts, which is kind of surprising, but they've been able to do it. So if you're telling me that they've prepared for the cap room, and then even if it doesn't work out, they could get out of it, I do feel a lot better if it ends up being a market rate contract.
I feel completely fine with them paying him $55 million a year. Obviously, if it gets up to 60, okay. But at the same time, $5 million a year, if that's what it is, they'll figure it out, right? I'm more worried about their drafting. Figure out how to hit on more draft picks, please, because it just feels like, especially in the third round, every third round, running back, kicker, like this, like figure it out and stop wasting picks in the middle of your rounds on wide receivers you're never going to use too. There's just too many of those wastes where I'm not saying everyone has to be a starter or this great player, but get some more role players, right? That you could trust a little bit more, because they just it's just many, many wasted picks as of late.
Raise the floor on your draft picks. The floor for their draft picks right now, except for last year, but the floor for the draft picks has been nothing. Like, can't contribute on special teams, like can't do any, like unplayable NFL players. That's what their floor has been on the draft picks that they have missed on. If you could just raise it to like even below average NFL players, right? If your worst picks ended up as just below average NFL players, you would at least get some contribution somewhere. But their whiffs have been guys like Trey Sermon that can't even stay on the roster That's what
Ronnie Bell,
well, yeah, Ronnie Bell stuck around longer than he should have, but yeah, you're right. Now,
Danny Gray.
to be fair, last year's draft class looked very good. In fact, PFF just named them as the in the top 10 of draft classes last year. So that is a good sign. Hopefully that fills us with hope that they can start to do that and that they can raise that floor. But you're right. The lifeblood of any team is the draft. You have to have success in the draft if you're going to, one, become good, or two, maintain your goodness, so to speak.
Listen to, I mean, I guess 2023, they didn't have any first or second round picks, so maybe this isn't fair, but go back to the Rams 2023 draft class, and they didn't have any, they had a ton of late picks too, and they just did so much better, especially with their undrafted guys. But this is the 2023 class. Jair Brown, who does not look like he's going to be good here. No. Jake Moody, goodbye. Cameron Latu, pointless. Darrell Luter, pointless. Robert Beal, whatever.
Pointless.
D Winters, I think is a bust. I know people keep waiting for him to do something.
There's a spot for him on the team, though.
Maybe. Braden Willis, Ronnie Bell, Jalen Graham, like brutal class. Before that, Drake Jackson, bust. Davis Price, not even on the team. Danny Gray, Spencer Burford, Samuel Womack. Like just so many names. That Castro Fields, until you hit Brock Purdy there. Like just so many guys that are just not on this team like at all or never were a part of being anything special here. Those are too many wasted picks.
Agreed. And keep going back. Trey Sermon, Ambry Thomas.
Trey Lance, Trey Sermon every time. Yeah, like you said, Jalen Moore. I mean, I guess we've gotten a little bit out of him. Damdor Lenore was great. Hufanga was good. Like with the 2021 class is all right. They found some weapons there.
Yeah, you got Lenore is their number one corner next year.
Yeah.
That's great. And they got him in the 5th round. Hufanga at least gave you 1 year of all-pro play. Like he wasn't, again, the floor was good for those guys.
It's weird because they hit on their later picks in 2021 and then busted so bad on their early picks. Trey Lance, Aaron Banks, and Trey Sermon and Ambry Thomas. Those were all their picks in the top 3 rounds of 2021. Like the guys that did play were terrible. And then the other guys that didn't even get a chance.
And like 2020, they at least got Ayuk. They got Colton McKivitz, who has at least contributed, and they got Juwan Jennings in the 7th round, and they only made 5 picks that year. So
it really was a 2022 and 2023 class that could set them back. Now, hopefully 2024 helps bring them back up. They got to hit on a lot of these picks again next year. But you can't have more of those classes like 2023 and 2022 because you just can't be a good team like that.
Heineman on Twitch says something that I know a lot of people think too, that Kyle makes all the picks in the first 3 rounds. Kyle makes all the picks in all the rounds. All right. They don't ever draft someone that Kyle Shanahan doesn't want them to draft. Where there have been some picks in the early rounds where Kyle has pounded the table. Joe Williams, we remember that at running back. That was a complete disaster. He pounded the table for CJ Beathard. They traded up to get CJ Beathard. Everybody in the draft was like, what the hell? So there have been some notable
Trey Lance
when Kyle has pounded the table and gotten his guy, but they make all the picks. It's not like Kyle is overruling everybody for all the picks. He approves every pick. So you got to give him credit for everything and blame for everything. That's at least the way I look at it. This past year, Ricky Pearsall, high floor. Bernardo Green's going to be your number 2 corner next year. Dominic Pooney, home run. Malik Mustafa looks like he could at least be a starter for you. Garendo, we'll see if he can stay healthy. It looks like there's a role for him on the team. Jake McCowing, I don't know. Technically, he was their starting punt returner this year, so that's some contribution in some way. Jared Kingston didn't really play. Tatum Bethune didn't really play, but that's a hell of a lot of picks. That's got to be the floor for your draft class. If they can do that again, it would go so far into helping them get back to where they want to be.
And when's the last time the 49ers really hit on a stud early? I mean, was it Nick Bosa? But that was such an easy pick, right? I mean, he was who went number 1 that year? It was a quarterback, right? In 2019? Kyler Murray, yeah. So they got the first pick of all the guys besides a quarterback. So that, I don't even want to give them that, right? Like I think all 31 teams that could have been there would have taken Nick Bosa. So who's the last really great early pick they've had? DeForest Buckner, 2016. I think that's the last one where you're like, good job.
That was Chip Kelly.
I think that's the last time you could say, good job. You hit on a guy early that, that wasn't the obvious pick of the Nick Bosa?
Now, Deebo Samuel was not first round, but that was also the 2019 draft got them Nick Bosa, Deebo Samuel, and Dre Greenlaw. That is a freaking draft, man. Holy crap. That's a tremendous draft. But you're right. I mean,
but I like, because right this year they get the 11th overall pick, right? And I'm just looking, like, they used their early pick in 2021 on Trey Lance. They used number 14 overall on Javon Kinlaw. They did a good job taking Nick Bosa.
Ayuk was a first rounder too. They traded back in the first to get Ayuk in 2020.
Yes. Again, just talking about the early picks, you know, those really early ones, they seem to struggle at
best. I mean, really, before the Ayuk deal, Nick Bosa was the only first round pick in the regime to get a second contract from the 49ers. So you're not off at all. In fact, you're right, Michelle.
Solomon Thomas.
Yeah, well, that was painful for a variety of reasons. Reuben Foster was a first round pick that year too. So that was thank God they got George Kittle in that draft in 2017. Otherwise, the whole draft was looking a little dicey. Anyway.
Maybe they need to stop letting Kyle Shanahan have so much say. That's all I'm saying.
Again, but we have this habit of blaming Kyle for every bad pick, you know.
But also the Ayuk one, didn't he say he would choose Ayuk over everyone else? So that means he would have chosen him over Justin Jefferson.
No, I think he said he would have chosen CeeDee Lamb. I think he liked CD. The two guys that I think Kyle said he liked, I could be remembering this wrong, but I think the two guys Kyle said that he liked were CeeDee Lamb and Ayuk in that draft.
He could have looked as stupid as the Eagles looked pretty easily if he had the pick right before and took, you know, Ayuk instead of Justin Jefferson. But I mean, at least that's better than the Eagles taking Jalen Reagor.
That was not ideal. Moonman Ed, YouTube channel member. Shout out to all the YouTube channel members. We love you. Appreciate you. Says prediction on the 11th pick. I saw that Dane Brugler just put out a mock draft, and he had the Niners going offensive line in round 1. I believe the player he had for them was from Missouri, and it was, I can't think of his name, Armand Membu. I have no idea if he's any good. I do know it would be the first Missouri player the Niners drafted since Aldon Smith in 2011. That worked out for a short time. But I would have no problem with them going offensive line in round 1. I just don't want them to force offensive line in round 1.
And they shouldn't have to force it. 11th overall pick. There should still be someone good there. I'm not even going to act like I've done any research yet on these prospects. So I'm not there yet. I will be getting there the second that the Super Bowl is over. I'll be digging deep into everything. And, then we'll do our episodes then. So I have no idea who they'll take at the 11th overall pick. Yeah.
Heineman says Niners, parentheses, Kyle, select Tyler Warren, tight end at Penn State at number 11. God help us if they do that. I mean, geez. They have been searching for a complimentary tight end to George Kittle basically ever since they drafted George Kittle. Now is not the time.
They have to do their lines. Fix up your offensive line, defensive line. Just focus on that, please. I wouldn't even care if their entire draft was offensive lineman and defensive lineman. I almost would love it.
You could make the argument. I mean, that's kind of what the Rams did. Like you mentioned that class from the Rams. They didn't have any early picks, but they had a crap ton of other picks in the draft. And if you look, they drafted a lot of the same position. And it was basically like, we're playing the lottery here. If we can hit on one or two of these, we'll be set. And that's exactly what they did.
They have been really, really good at drafting, actually. Like the fact that in 2023, they only had one pick inside the top 70. And there are two picks from 77 and 89 were Byron Young and Kobe Turner, two of their top sack leaders this year, and really, really good, front seven. Good for them. Grabbing Puka Nacua in the 5th. They got Kyron Williams as undrafted this year. No, he was a later round pick too. In the year prior, where was Kyron Williams?
He was a 5th round pick in
2022. Yeah. They have been really, really good at drafting late. Kobe Bryant in the 4th round in 2022. This year, grabbing Kinchins in the 3rd round that he was late, 99th overall. He's their leading interception guy this year. Did great in the 1st and 2nd round in Verse and Fisk. That's why the Rams are in the divisional round and the 49ers are not in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, if you go back and look, every team that gets good, just look at their draft classes. You're like, oh, look, that was a good class. That was a good. Like it's
not about free agency.
It's always that. That's why people are like, oh, I don't care about the later rounds of the draft. You should. You absolutely should, because that's how these teams are built. Teams are built and thrive on kicking ass in the draft and getting a bunch of young players who they don't have to pay for multiple years. And that's how the good teams are built. And that's how the 49ers will be built if they are going to get good again. And of course, we will see if they will. All right. It's Friday. Unfortunately, the 49ers do not have a game this weekend, but that doesn't mean that you can't make some money. We have a bunch of good games this weekend. I have a bunch of best bets. I'm fascinated to get your take on them, Michelle. I feel good. We've been good with the bets this year for the most part. Now, we usually only make 49ers bets, so, we'll see if we can be as good when we go outside the bubble. But let's start with Rams. Let's start with Chiefs-Texans. A couple numbers I like in this game. I'm going Travis Kelce over 55.5 receiving yards in the game. Travis Kelce has not had a playoff game with less than 70 yards receiving since the first Super Bowl against the 49ers in 2019. In the playoffs, Travis Kelce is a dog. I fully expect that to continue. Andy Reid's going to have some crazy stuff dialed up. I'm taking Kelce over 55.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I was trying to see what you can get to change it up for Kelce, because I think that's too low for him. So if you can, because you get minus 121 odds, I think with that 55. If you go up to 66, you get plus 121. I'm taking 66 there. Like you said, last year, it was looking like Travis Kelce was done too until the playoffs. And then all of a sudden, it was 70, 71, 75, 116, 93 in his 4 playoff games last year. So and Mahomes just said to the media, that he was asked about Travis Kelce slowing down. He says, this is his time to shine in the playoffs. Elite players come out for the playoffs. He's going to get targets. He's going to get his yards. I love going to 66 plus to get that plus 121 odds on BetUS app there.
Yeah, plus 121. That means you bet $100, you win $121. That's a much better number than the minus 121 I got at 55. And for only 10 more yards, it's that's one catch. That's one more catch from Travis Kelce. So I would absolutely take that. There wasn't a ton of other receiving numbers in that game.
I like the Dalton Schultz one a lot. The 39 plus at minus 114. I don't know if I feel comfortable going up to 49 plus to get it all the way to plus 134. It's enticing. He had 45 receiving yards the last time he played them and a touchdown. But Tank Dell was still there taking up a lot of targets. Now Dell's gone. It's really just Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz. And no team in the league gave up more receiving yards to tight ends than the Chiefs this year. So I like Dalton Schultz. And Cade Stover, who was taking snaps and targets from him last week, the other tight end for the Texans, just went on IR. He will not be playing in this game. So Schultz will be playing a ton, getting a lot of snaps. I like him to hit his over.
What do you make of the spread in this game? Houston's getting 9.5 points. Now, I fully expect the Chiefs to win.
But I'm taking the 9.5.
That's the thing. They've been playing one-score games all year long. 10 of Patrick Mahomes' 18 career games have been one-score games. So even in the playoffs, they generally play close games. 9.5 is a lot of points.
I'm taking the 9.5. Again, yes, the Chiefs will win in a close game. Probably on something stupid lucky. I don't know. I could see Kyamie Fairbairn has been good all year, right? But he's going to miss a 36-yard field goal, and then the Chiefs will win. There's no one luckier in the world than Patrick Mahomes. And yes, he's also great. But when you combine greatness and luckiness, it's just impossible to beat. So he will win on something stupid lucky, and they'll win by 3 points or maybe a touchdown. But 9.5, that's not even fair. I'm actually seeing, oh no, that's the handicap. Take that 9.5 for the Texans.
I completely agree with you. And of course, if you want to bet any of these games, please do it with BetUS. But if you don't want to just bet on the games, BetUS also has a casino. So if you like slots or live casino dealers, you can take advantage of BetUS. Amazing 200% sign-up bonus up to $5,000 or 250% for crypto sign-up bonus up to $5,000, again, with BetUS. There was only one other bet from this game that I was considering, and it was Mahomes under 0.5 interceptions. He's only thrown an interception in his first playoff game one time in his career, but I didn't feel super duper strong about it. But that was the only other one I was considering. I don't know if you had any others from this game.
No, I don't. I don't really like a lot of players in this game. I like the tight ends, maybe Xavier Worthy, but he
Mhm.
can also do it as a runner. So if you can find a scrimmage yards one or anytime touchdown could be interesting for Worthy. But I think this is going to be a gross game overall of both offenses. And with the interception, like the Texans can cause turnovers. So I probably would stay away from that. I won't be surprised if Mahomes doesn't throw one because, like you said, he's great in the playoffs and taking care of the ball. But I wouldn't go that route.
I'd be interested to see what kind of game plan D'Amico dials up. This big test for D'Amico, playoff game. You're a defensive head coach. You're hired for these kind of games. Let's see. I will certainly be rooting for D'Amico Ryans and the Houston Texans in that one. All right, let's move on to game number 2. The Commanders and the Detroit Lions. You know where I'm going with this one. Anytime I make a Lions bet, it's Jamison Williams anytime touchdown, plus 129 in big games. Ben Johnson loves to get this man the football, whether it's running, whether it's passing, it's plus money. Give me Jamison Williams plus 129 anytime touchdown.
I love Jamison Williams. I'm happy he broke out this year. And he's also finally getting the targets. It's not just, I have to have him catch this touchdown on his 2 targets he gets, like that was happening last year or earlier this season. He's getting 8 targets a game now. So it can happen, and he's good after the catch as well. So I like that from you. My favorite bet of the week actually is this one. It's Jaden Daniels more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. If you play Prize Picks, it's an app, but it's a demon pick over there. That means you get more money, but it's like a parlay thing. You can't just do the Jaden Daniels bet. But Jaden Daniels more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. These are his games since week 12. 2 touchdowns, passing touchdowns. 2 passing touchdowns, 3, 2, 5, 3. 0 in week 18, but he didn't play the second half. And then 2 in the wild card round last week against the Buccaneers. The Lions held Sam Darnold, sure, in week 18, but it seems like Sam Darnold has just fallen flat on his face, right? From what he did in the wild card round. So I can't really give them too much credit for that game. Before the week 18 game, with all the injuries they have, they allowed Caleb Williams to throw 3 passing touchdowns against them in week 13, Josh Allen to have 2 passing touchdowns and then multiple rushing touchdowns against them in week 15, Caleb Williams 2 again in week 16, Brock Purdy to throw 3 in week 17. So I think Jaden Daniels has 2 in this game.
We were in the same church. We're in different pews because I had Jaden Daniels anytime touchdown at plus 160. The Lions, here's the thing about the Lions. They're going to blitz the hell out of them. They're going to play man coverage. And I think it's possible that Jaden Daniels in his first, significant playoff action, I know it's not his first playoff game, but this is like a bigger game for him. I think he's going to be like, I'm not quite sure what I'm seeing. I'm going to run. They're in man coverage. No one's, I only got to get past one guy, maybe if they happen to have a spy. If not, everybody's in man. I'm taking off. And it might be a rushing touchdown that's like a 15-yarder where he just breaks through and gets away and scores. But I'm going to go Jaden Daniels anytime touchdown. It's plus 160. It's a good number for me. So I might take both of those bets. It's possible he gets 3.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is gonna be a hard matchup for the Lions defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of how they want to play in the man blitzing. That's not good when you're facing a quarterback that's as mobile as Jaden Daniels. So they're gonna have to really figure out a way to keep him inside the pocket. Now, if they figure that out, it could get ugly and they could destroy them. I still think the Lions are going to win because of how good their offense is, but their defense could struggle and the Commanders could be putting up a lot of points. So I like both of those as well.
This game could be super fun. Like, as someone that has
this is a game I'm besides obviously the Bills and Ravens, but I'm really, really excited for this game.
This could be like the Lions-Niners game was. Touchdown, 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 where it's like the ball's just flying all over the place. So that could be a lot of fun. The next game I want to look at, Rams-Eagles. I see the number in this game, and I'm like, hold on. The Rams are getting 6.5 points. That seems like way too much for me, Michelle. I will take the Rams. I think they could win the game outright, and to get 6.5 is a lot.
I'm taking the Eagles to cover the 6.5. I think they kill him. I think the Eagles don't let Stafford or this Rams offense do anything in this game on the road in Philly. This Eagles defense has been playing great. I know Stafford looked like he's been struggling over the last half of the season, and they looked a little bit better in the first half of last week, but I don't think they're going to do it on the road against the Eagles.
Here's one thing to consider. It looks right now like it's going to be a snow game. Matthew Stafford is not good in the weather. Even against the 49ers in the rain, he was just as bad as Brock Purdy was. They did nothing in the first half of that game while it was raining.
Saquon Barkley will be able to run all over this defense if it's snowing and gross out.
That will be a question. But I think McVay and Stafford are the best head coach quarterback combination in the NFC right now. Even if you include the non-playoff teams, I think that I trust them in the playoffs in a big spot more than I trust Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, like a billion times more, quite frankly. And I still maintain this about the Eagles. Everything on the Eagles seems to be very fragile to me. It seems like if they face any real adversity, you're going to start seeing A.J. Brown pouting on the sideline. You're going to start seeing Nick Sirianni flipping out, yelling at his players. Big Dom's going to have to hold him back and restrain him from his own players. I just feel like if things start to go south, they could snowball on Philly. So I'm taking the Rams. And again, 6.5 points. I love that number.
We might have to have a little bet on this one, a side bet, because I'm taking Eagles minus 6.5.
Interesting. All right. Well, as long as it doesn't involve any mayonnaise, because I can't eat the mayonnaise again. And I don't think you should eat it either.
No, not with my stomach issues. Yeah, we'll figure out something.
Okay. I have a couple other bets in this one. Jalen Hurts over 9.5 carries. The Rams defensive line is really good. I know the Eagles have a good offensive line, but I think that Jalen Hurts is going to try to run on this Rams defense. I'm going to take over 9.5 carries.
That's fair, especially if it's gross out. I like that.
Yes.
What is Dallas Goedert's line? 37.5. Smash that. The Rams have been really, really, really bad against tight ends this entire year. And last week, the only play that worked was TJ Hawkinson, right, for that long touchdown. And it's not like he was not guarded whatsoever. It was a terrible pass from Sam Darnold, so it made it harder than it needed to be because it was so far behind him. But they're very bad at guarding tight ends. I've taken Goddard over 37.5.
Ooh, I like that. That's a sneaky good one. Maybe he'll just stiff arm somebody all the way to the end zone.
I also think this is an A.J. Brown game. I guess it depends on how bad the weather actually ends up being. But if the weather ends up holding up and it'll be just cold, anytime it gets to the height, right? I feel like it's the height right now of A.J. Brown in the media with him reading the book on the sideline and all that. Whenever that drama happens, that's when A.J. Brown has a massive game because Jalen Hurts starts to feed him. You know, the squeaky mouse gets the wheel, right? The cheese, whatever it was, whatever I said. I changed it every time. But if the weather's not terrible, I like A.J. Brown to have a big game too.
Okay. A couple other ones. This number surprised me, and it has to do with Saquon Barkley. And I didn't even think about the weather, but you're right. Saquon Barkley to score 1 touchdown is minus 200. That's a terrible number. You should never bet that. Saquon Barkley to score 2 touchdowns is plus 250, Michelle. That could be rushing. That could be receiving. I think I'm going Saquon plus 2 touchdowns. I could see them using him as a receiver way more in this game with the Rams defensive line. I love that. Plus 250, mark me down for Saquon.
I wouldn't do it only for the fact that whenever they get a yard away from the goal line, they're not running it with Saquon. It's going to be a tush push. So you have to have Barkley score from not right next to the goal line, and that's hard to count on. Now, he's done it in plenty of games this year, but it's just Jalen Hurts just steals those too often for me to do the 2.
Most touchdowns are scored like inside the 5-yard line if you look in the NFL. But especially if it's a bad weather game, Saquon running, Rams flopping all over the place, that number, it's the number that's really grabbing.
If Barkley scores 2 touchdowns like you think, then the Eagles are going to destroy the Rams. I don't think the Rams are putting up many points in this game. The Eagles defense has been so good since their week 6 bye. They're number 1 in the league.
Yeah, that's good. This is a playoffs. It's a whole different animal.
It's in Philadelphia.
I saw the Eagles get stomped in Philadelphia by the 49ers 2 years ago. Let's not act like they're unbeatable.
Their defense is way better now.
Yeah, better be. All right.
Because they hit on their draft picks.
The other bet in this game, I don't feel super strong about it. Devontae Smith over 4.5 catches. I feel like he's the guy they go to when they need a big third down, when they need a big play, it's not A.J. Brown that they go to. The security blanket to me for Jalen Hurts is Devontae Smith. And so I'm going to go over 4.5 catches. I don't feel super strong about it, but that was another one that did jump out to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that route, but
why not?
I don't know, because if I think AJ Brown's going to have a good game and Dallas Goedert and the weather's supposed to be bad, I don't know if there's room for also Devonta Smith.
I think that he will get the ball. Like, I could easily see him having more catches than AJ Brown in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. If you're going to go one way or the other, I'd go with his receptions over his receiving yards, because he could have more receptions. AJ Brown could catch the long ball. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they might run a couple short passes to Smith just to get Hurts feeling comfortable, getting the flow. He only has to have 5. I mean, it's basically 1 catch a quarter. And then in 1 quarter, he has to have 2 catches. It's not like some crazy thing. You know how I like those little small bets that don't need much to happen to win. So that was my last bet from that game. Now let's get to the
great game. The NFL is so smart to make us wait till Sunday night to watch it. Like, I just want to watch it right now.
Bills, Ravens. The Bills are actually an underdog at home. Now, it's only a 0.5 point, so it's not a huge thing. But if I'm the Bills, I'm like, damn, we're hosting this game. Our team is really good. How are we the underdog?
Yeah, they had the better record. They got the better seed. They're at home. These 2 guys are going up for MVP, right? It seems like it's going to go to Lamar, but I think that's kind of scary for the Ravens and Lamar right now, that Josh Allen knows that these guys voted for Lamar to get first team All-Pro, same guys that vote for MVP. So he's probably going to be snubbed yet again. And he's facing the guy who they're going to give it to. You're telling me Josh Allen is not going to play with an insane chip on his shoulder? Like, I think that's actually better for the Bills and how Josh Allen's going to play than if it seemed like Josh Allen was going to get handed this MVP. But these narratives come into play, man. And it seems like these pro athletes, just if there's something that they can use as motivation, it does seem to work.
And there's this like narrative about Josh Allen. Oh, he can't get it done in the playoffs. He's not any good in the playoffs.
He's the best quarterback in NFL history in the playoffs in every category.
He's awesome. Thank you for saying that. In the playoffs, he has almost 6 times as many touchdown passes in the playoffs as interceptions. I'm going to say that again. He has almost 6 times more touchdown passes than interceptions. 23 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions in the playoffs. Josh Allen is awesome in the postseason. The only person that's better is Patrick Mahomes, and that's the guy that keeps bumping up against him. That's the only reason we don't think Josh Allen is incredible in the postseason. So he's light years better than Lamar has been in the playoffs. It's not even close.
Oh, it's not close whatsoever. And then also, like, considering all the quarterbacks that Josh Allen has had to gone up against, which he does not get to play defense against them. All of these teams are putting up 30 plus points against him. How many times have we watched Allen lose a playoff game because the other team is just going off on his defense? He cannot do anything about that. And now maybe we get that again in this game, because Lamar Jackson could certainly beat up the Bills defense. But I mean, Allen has been so good. He has averaged 329 offensive yards per game in the playoffs in his career. That is the most in NFL history in the playoffs among all guys who have played 5 games. The other guys that he's ahead of, I mean, he's 15 more yards per game ahead of Patrick Mahomes, who's second. Then you got Kurt Warner third and Drew Brees fourth. All of those guys have at least 1 Super Bowl appearance. Mahomes has 4. Warner has 3. Allen has 0. It's not his fault. He's also first in NFL history in offensive touchdowns per game in the playoffs at 2.6 touchdowns per game. Number 1 in NFL playoffs in pass touchdown interception ratio, and number 1 in interception percentage. Like, this dude is so stinking good in the playoffs. He cannot also play defense, though.
It's the way that Patrick Mahomes skews our perception of people. Here's the quarterbacks.
But he's better than Mahomes in all of these categories.
Here's the quarterbacks that have beaten Josh Allen in the playoffs. Ready? Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. End of list. That's it. Like, what? He does not nearly get the credit he deserves. He is awesome in the playoffs. As for this game, Michelle, the number 1 bet I saw was Lamar Jackson anytime touchdown at plus 170. That is a super high number. And if you want to get crazy, Lamar Jackson, 2 touchdowns in the game is plus 900. Are you telling me that there's no chance that Lamar Jackson scores 2 rushing touchdowns in this game against Buffalo? At plus 900, I got to risk it.
Maybe. Wait, what's Derrick Henry for 2 touchdowns? Probably like plus 200.
Derrick Henry, 2 touchdowns is plus 200.
I can see Derrick Henry having 2 touchdowns, obviously much easier than Lamar, but obviously so can Vegas because the odds say that. I don't know, because unlike the Eagles, right? The Eagles are always going to do the tush push and get their quarterback the rushing touchdown. When they get near the goal line, though, for the Ravens, it's going to Derrick Henry, and he's going to get in because he's so good. It's not like he's going to fail at it. So I don't think he's going to do it, but at plus 900, if you want to throw down $5, sure.
It's plus 190 now for Lamar to score 1 touchdown. So it's even gone up since we started the show. Plus 190 for 1 touchdown. I got to do it. I could almost double my money. Like, please give me that. I have faith in Lamar. He's going to do it. Damn it. He'll score 1 time. Maybe it'll be
for the listeners, scoring does not mean passing touchdowns. It has to be a rushing or receiving.
Correct. Yes. It can't be a passing touchdown. If it was, I would, oh my God, I would run to make that bet. But Vegas isn't stupid.
You know, he only has 4 rushing touchdowns this entire year.
Yeah, he has been killing it passing. He hasn't needed to run because he's been kicking ass through the air. But I'm suckered in. This is how Vegas gets all your money. They put these beautiful fancy numbers in and they're like, Rob's an idiot. He'll pay us and we will gladly take his money. Who do you have winning the game?
My heart wants the Bills so bad that I feel like I can't give an honest opinion because I want Josh Allen to win. I hate the Ravens with everything in me. I despise them. As a Steelers fan, there's no team I hate more. So I really want the Bills to win so bad, but probably because of how bad I want that, probably the Ravens win.
This is the thing that annoys me because I would be grateful. I would be happy with either one because I like Lamar and I think that Josh Allen gets way too much hate. Whoever loses this game, people are going to try to diminish what the quarterback accomplished. Oh, Lamar, he sucks in the playoffs. See, Lamar can't get it done. He still had an historic, amazing year and could and should be the MVP. Like, it's incredible, but people, if he loses, are going to act like he didn't do anything. Like it wasn't impressive. Like it doesn't matter, doesn't count at all. It's the same thing they do with Kyle Shanahan. Oh, NFC Championship game. Oh, that doesn't matter. You didn't win the Super Bowl. Nothing matters. And I don't like that. And the same thing will happen if Lamar wins and they'll be like, oh, Josh Allen can't get it done in the playoff. Like, dude, it's incredible. And that's going to happen regardless of who wins. And that sucks.
I mean, right now, there's so many amazing elite quarterbacks in the AFC. Only one of them can get to the Super Bowl in any given year. And it's always Patrick Mahomes, right? So, I mean, this is going to last a long time where these guys are going to lose a lot of playoff games because they have to face other amazing MVP level quarterbacks. It's just how it is. I have one bet I really like in this game I wanted to share. I think Keon Coleman, the rookie for the Bills, is going to have a really good game, and his line's very, very low. It's at 25.5. Now it's minus 121. So if you want to increase that, do it. Because I think he has at least 50 yards in this game. He had 51 yards against the Ravens earlier in the season. He caught 2 balls over 20 receiving yards in that game. He also had a 40-yard dime right in his hands that he dropped. So he could have had a massive game. Now, obviously, he dropped it. That's an issue. But 12 of his 30 catches this season have been for over 20 receiving yards. His line's at 25.5. The Ravens have given up the 3rd most downfield passing yards this season in just the regular season, behind only the Jaguars and the Lions. So I do think if one guy has a massive game for the Bills this week, it's going to be Keon Coleman on those deep balls.
I like that. That is some juicy stuff, right? I think that's going to be my Bills bet that I actually put in on the app. So nice. Thank you for that. That is very, very good. Enjoy the playoff games, everybody. I hope you have a great divisional playoff weekend. For anyone who doesn't know, I should mention, by the way, Michelle and I are doing 2 live shows a week for Bleacher Report, Mondays and Wednesdays, every week this offseason and into the regular season, basically from now until the end of time. So make sure you check those out on the Bleacher Report app. Hope you can join us for that. If you want more from Michelle, she is on X at Ball Blastem. I am on all the socials at Stats on Fire. Thank you, Michelle, for joining me, as you always do. Also, want to say thank you to BetUS. Remember, they have a casino, so if you like slots or live casino dealers, take advantage of BetUS. Amazing 200% sign-up bonus up to $5,000 or 250% for crypto sign-up bonus up to $5,000. And 49ers, if you could hire a defensive coordinator this weekend, that would just be great. Just think of the content creators, Michelle.
It's probably not going to happen unless Saleh hears from everybody that he's not getting a job. But
True.
yes, that would have been great.
Yeah. And don't hire Nick Sorensen for anything, for any reason. Enjoy the playoffs. Goodbye.
Bye, y'all.